Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode, I'll be discussing the 2022 action-adventure movie Uncharted, as directed by Ruben Fleischer and as based on the popular, PlayStation game franchise of the same name as devised by game developers Naughty Dog. Acting as a prequel to the gaming series, I believe, the movie charts how two of the game's main characters, Nathan Drake and Victor Sully Sullivan, met and how they kind of became friends. And the adventures, of course, that they then go on. Sully, as played by Mark Wahlberg, a treasure hunter, is on the hunt for the fabled treasure of the Magellan Expedition, long since believed to be lost to the ages, and enlists the help of Drake, as played by Tom Holland, to help seek out the missing piece of the puzzle standing in the way of finding where the last resting place of the expedition may have been. Pitted against the money and the influence of Santiago Moncada, as played by Antonio Banderas, and his ruthless treasure hunter Joe Braddock, as played by Tati Gabrielle, Drake and Sully have a race against time and against the clock in order to lay claim to the treasure first, and indeed to all of the riches and the glory such a find would bring. Now, I was sat there poised and waiting for the Naughty Dog logo to appear at the beginning of the film and the Crash Bandicoot music to chime in, but alas, there was none. Apart from that in my head. Now, the link being Crash Bandicoot having been developed originally by Naughty Dog, as in the case of the Uncharted series also. Me, however, not having yet played any of the Uncharted games, could only kind of conjure up images of the crazy Bandicoot. Do I wish I had played the games before watching the movie? Well, probably. I think the movie had a few references I felt like kind of went a little bit over my head. But these are only minor, and I did follow the film just fine, don't get me wrong. I don't think it was essential to have played the games, so to kind of get what was going on, you know? It's just, I kind of do love looking out for that kind of stuff and elements such as those, and you know, in these kind of movies. And in this one, it definitely felt like I was a little bit late to the party. The movie does feel like a mashup of the likes of National Treasure, Tomb Raider, and kind of Indiana Jones all thrown together. It wasn't wholly original, to be honest, and much of it felt very recycled. It had that very much kind of been there, done that vibe. It's a decent enough adventure movie, but it doesn't really bring anything new to the table. Now, without playing the games, I'm not sure how this fares with respect to the storylines and the styles used, but within, it didn't seem to me to kind of have that kind of energy that's required, nor similar to the aforementioned franchises, you know, to really kind of give it zest. It kind of just plodded along to kind of begin with, and we were like kind of on this kind of sightseeing expedition rather than on a life and death treasure hunt. The integration of puzzles into the treasure hunt was actually brilliant. I mean, I like that. They could have been more taxing, more involved, perhaps. But for what they were fun enough. And indeed, when the movie does kind of get into the action, it does kind of get into full swing and certainly feels like an adventure. It just kind of mulls over the basis of the characters for far too long to kind of get it there, you know? Holland is certainly quite the hot property, isn't he, in Hollywood at this moment in time? But has he kind of got the charisma and the box office draw needed for a movie such as this? Now, I do think he carries himself very well, to be honest. It's hard to kind of see him playing anything other than the role of Peter Parker at the minute, really. And although this film does try its best to give us another side to his range, more scope, you know, more direction, he still does come across as a lovable scamp. It's not a character with enough different qualities to give us anything with any real edge or USP from what he's brought to the table before. But I think still very much one to watch. He brings his all to the role, you know? Don't get me wrong, it's clear he's invested and his charm certainly does carry the character through. Enough and more to make it more than palatable, you know? Unfortunately, everybody else kind of just feels like they're dialing it in. And as a result, there's very little chemistry to kind of bounce off. Again, playing into the film's lack of energy for the most part, I think. When it's in adventure mode, it's brilliant fun. The finale, it's insane. Perhaps a bit Goonies, but I loved it nonetheless. It just tries to do too many things all at once, and to kind of set everything up, it just, instead of just taking us on this adventure, you know, getting us there, It tries to be a flashy heist movie, but falls flat. It tries to build its characters, but nobody's interested, but for Holland. But once it stops trying and it just kind of brings it home with some exotic locations, some fun chase sequences, some enjoyable, if but predictable and repetitive double crosses, it does bring back some good old school adventure, and I do love that. If at all, it does seem a little bit easy and convenient, you know? It has some brilliant cinematography, I can't deny that. Lots of sweeping scenes, hot locations, crypts, caves, long-forgotten treasure, you know? It's a charming adventure. Not one of the greats, unfortunately, but entertaining for the most part. I suppose that's all we can ask. It's not a bad movie. It's just not incredibly well joined together. In the end, it goes in for some grand showboating, quite literally, with an extravagant set piece that's as wild and as adventurous as it should have been, I think. A top swashbuckling finale, which does actually leave it all quite satisfying for what it was worth. Overall, I would suggest this is one to warm to. It's nothing too extravagant, at least until the finale. It's nothing too riveting, having a very safe and revisited feel and never really offering anything of any great shakes. If not for the point of trying, though. It doesn't really capture the energy of other movies in its genre. It doesn't have that kind of zest or the love of its source material to really make it stand out. Most just kind of really being played by the numbers, I think. It's an adventure. It's an adequate adventure, sorry, with glimmers of hope. Not the worst game movie adaptation out there, but there's certainly a lot of elements that could have been very much put together better. Fun enough for what it is and for what it brings to the table, which isn't much, but enjoyable nonetheless. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you here at SciFirst MovieTalk, and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.